There are stories that do not simply end when the last page is turned. They remain inside you, haunting your thoughts, echoing in your quiet moments, reshaping the way you see yourself and the world. Goethe's The Sorrows of Young Werther is one of those stories. It is not just a tale of love, it is a psychological portrait of obsession, vulnerability, and the fragile boundaries of the human heart. Werther is not merely a character, he is an archetype, a mirror of every restless soul who has ever longed for something beyond reach. When we first meet him, he is full of life, enchanted by nature, intoxicated with beauty, and deeply sensitive to every detail of existence. He writes of the trees, the flowers, the sky with such passion that it feels as if he is not just living but overflowing, and yet within this overflowing lies a storm that only needs the spark of love to ignite into a fire that consumes him completely. That spark arrives when he meets Charlotte, Lotte. She is graceful, kind, nurturing, and radiant in ways that captivate Werther's entire being. But there is a problem as old as time. She is engaged to another man, Albert, a man who is steady, reliable, and everything society approves of. From the moment Werther realizes this truth, his life becomes a tension between desire and reality, between the heart's wild hunger and the mind's painful awareness that some things are forbidden. This is not a story of simple heartbreak. It is a story of what happens when a person refuses to let go. Werther does not merely admire Charlotte, he builds his entire existence around her presence. He writes letters overflowing with longing, with despair, with hope that cannot find a ground in reality. He tells himself that friendship is enough, that being near her is worth the pain, but in truth, he is carving out his own destruction with every page of his diary. The brilliance of Goethe's novel lies in its psychological depth. Werther is not just in love, he is caught in the grip of obsession. He cannot step back and see Charlotte as a human being with her own life, her own commitments. Instead, he transforms her into a symbol, almost a divine figure who gives meaning to his own emptiness. This is where his tragedy begins, because once you turn a human being into an ideal, you no longer love them, you worship them, and worship always leads to ruin. Charlotte, for her part, is compassionate but bound by duty. She never deceives Werther. She never promises what she cannot give. She is torn between kindness and the unspoken guilt of knowing how much Werther suffers in her presence. And Albert, the fiancé, is the embodiment of stability. He is rational, grounded, and incapable of understanding the storm inside Werther. To Albert, Werther's despair is incomprehensible, even unreasonable. But for Werther, Albert is the cruel reminder that life belongs not to the dreamers, but to the steady. As the story unfolds, Werther's letters grow darker. His once bright view of nature becomes clouded. The same landscapes that once inspired him now reflect his torment. He begins to see no escape, no future where his love could exist. His passion, unchecked and unbalanced, transforms into despair. And despair, when nurtured too long, seeks only one resolution, an end. Goethe does not simply tell us what Werther does. He makes us live it. We feel the tightening of the chest, the sleepless nights, the restless pacing, the moments of wild joy followed by crushing emptiness. It is the psychology of obsession, drawn with such accuracy that modern readers still recognize it as if it were written yesterday. Anyone who has ever loved someone unattainable knows the sting of Werther's words. Anyone who has ever felt trapped between desire and reality understands his torment. But what makes this novel more than a tragic love story is the way it exposes the fragility of the human mind. Werther is intelligent, sensitive, and gifted, yet those very gifts become the instruments of his suffering. He feels too deeply, thinks too much, and cannot find balance between passion and reason. His tragedy is not only that he cannot have Charlotte, his tragedy is that he cannot have himself. He loses himself in the image of another until nothing of him remains. The climax of Werther's story is devastating yet inevitable. He borrows Albert's pistols under the pretense of travel. He retreats into solitude, writing his final letters, pouring out his anguish in a torrent of words that read like a farewell to life itself. And then, in the silence of his room, he takes his own life. He is found wounded, suffering through the night, before finally succumbing to the darkness that had long been consuming him. When the book was first published in 1774, it caused a storm across Europe. Young men dressed like Werther imitated his manners and even, tragically, followed his path into suicide. This phenomenon became known as the Werther effect, the recognition that literature and art can so deeply move the human psyche that it shapes behaviour itself. Authorities in several places even banned the book, fearing its influence. Goethe, who wrote it in a burst of youthful intensity, later looked back with a kind of horror at the frenzy it inspired. And yet the reason it resonated so profoundly is simple. Werther is not just a character. He is a reflection of the deepest, most dangerous corners of human desire. He represents the longing for love, the refusal to compromise, the unwillingness to accept limits. He is the voice of that part of us that whispers, "If I cannot have what I long for, then nothing else matters." But the lesson of Werther is not to glorify this despair. It is to see it for what it is, the danger of allowing passion to rule without the balance of reason. The novel is a warning about the cost of unchecked emotion, about the need to recognise that life, however painful, is larger than any single love, any single dream. Charlotte lives on. Albert lives on. The world continues. But Werther, who could not adapt, who could not bend, breaks. Psychologically, Werther's story is a study of idealization and self-destruction. His love is never grounded in reality. It is not built on mutual partnership or shared growth. It is built on projection, and projection, when shattered, leaves nothing but despair. In this sense, Werther's tragedy is one many of us face in smaller ways. When we expect another person to fill the emptiness inside us, we place upon them a weight they cannot bear. When they fail, as they inevitably will, we are left not only disappointed, but hollow. Goethe's genius is that he makes us feel sympathy for Werther even as we recognise his flaws. We see his passion and cannot help but admire it. We see his despair and cannot help but pity it. And yet, at the same time, we understand that he is the author of his own destruction. This duality, this mixture of empathy and judgment, is what makes the novel timeless. Even today, centuries later, Werther speaks to us because his struggle is not bound to the 18th century. It is universal. It is the struggle of anyone who has loved too much, who has felt too deeply, who has been consumed by something they could not control. In a modern world filled with social media, where idealization and obsession are amplified, Werther's fate feels eerily familiar. How many people today destroy themselves by comparing their lives to fantasies, by longing for perfection that does not exist? Werther is not a relic of the past, he is a warning for the present. At its core, the sorrows of young Werther is not about death. It is about the choices that lead to it. It is about what happens when we surrender our entire identity to one passion, one dream, one person. It is about the cost of refusing to accept reality. And in that sense, it is also about the importance of balance, the balance between heart and mind, between longing and acceptance, between love and self-preservation. Werther's story ends in tragedy, but our story does not have to. That is the gift Goethe gives us. By showing us the depths of Werther's despair, he invites us to choose differently. To love passionately, yes, but also to live wisely. To feel deeply, but also to remember that no single person, no single dream, defines the entirety of existence. And so, when we close the book, we are left not only with sorrow, but with clarity. We are reminded that obsession is not love, that despair is not destiny, and that the human spirit, though fragile, has within it the power to endure, to adapt, and to grow. Werther could not see this truth, but perhaps through him we can.